So I'm going to continue talking a little bit about practice and retreats, but I'm going to take it from a little bit of a different angle. Um, Today is Valentine's Day. So if you like that kind of thing, happy Valentine's Day to you. But one could say I could give the talk about love, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. But that it is Valentine's Day. It is an entry point to where I want to start this talk, which is the beginning of this talk is on vow, VOW. And conventionally in our culture, the main ways we experience vow outside of the Zen Center is in marriage vows. And over the years, I've officiated at many weddings, and I would have to say every wedding, no matter how unconventional that wedding might be, includes some kind of marriage vow. And it's always curious to me how, in the moment of this ceremony, we take a vow, and we very rarely define what a vow is. Because when you think about it, we're not saying we're taking a marriage promise. We're not saying we're listing our intentions in our marriage. We're talking about a vow. I think in olden times in the West, a vow had something to do with a covenant with God. So when one takes a vow, we're not just saying, I would like to do this. We're not saying, I want to do this. We're not saying it would be a good idea if I do this. We're actually saying, I will do this, regardless about how I feel in this very moment. My vow sets up a direction. Now, we're all imperfect human beings, and we all will struggle to keep our vows. But when we take a vow, we're actually saying, as I said, I will do this. It's not dependent on what I like or what I don't like. It's not a matter of how this year the trend is this way and last year the trend was that way, so I'll follow whatever trend there is. No, when we take a vow, we say we will do it. And I think when you look at your own practice in your own life, when you look at what it's like to do retreats, we actually follow the vow. So every morning at the Zen Center, we recite the 4 great vows. And of course, most of us relate to that first one, and you hear it spoken about in Dharma talks. Probably out of the 4 weeks in a month, one person at least is going to talk about that first great vow. And in our tradition, we say, sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. When we express a vow like that, we're setting our direction. We will do it. We're not saying in the morning, sentient beings are numberless. I think it would be a good idea if I were concerned about them. No, we're saying we will save them. We don't even know what saving means. Let's leave that aside for a second. But we're making a deep commitment, just like in our marriage vow. It's not this frivolous thing that we just say we're going to do. We're making a very deep commitment to actually do it. And of course, when we meet something that we say we will actually do, we come up against our own, maybe we can call them karmic tendencies, what I like and I don't like. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. But, I don't like short people. And I really don't like mice very much at all. So I'll save the ones that I like, but I'm going to really let the ones that I don't like be dragged off and be done with whatever whoever's dragging them will do. No, it includes all things. And if we take that seriously, how do we meet each moment from that vow to save all sentient beings? Again, if we're going to take a vow, it's not frivolous. It's not something we do on our good days when we're feeling happy and calm, but on our difficult days when we're tense, we're anxious about what's going to happen, and we feel undernourished, perhaps, and that we're not getting enough. Those days, it's much harder to muster the energy and the direction to live our vow. Zen is not a consumer object or a consumer product. Zen is participatory and something that we live and actually do. So when we take this vow to practice Zen, we're vowing to actually do it, not some of the time, but right now. So to really take this first vow seriously, how do we meet the moment? How do we treat the trees? How do we treat the animals? How do we treat people who are not in our family? Do we and how do we bring that energy of love and compassion and concern to this moment and translate that to all beings? Not a very easy task. But if we don't think about it, we won't do it. It's very easy to say the words. It's much more difficult to have that concern and that attention toward the well-being of all beings. Now, of course, in some ways, we have to remember that each one of us individually is also part of all beings. So as we're vowing to save all beings, it doesn't exclude us. So how do we live our life from our vow in a way that actually nurtures and takes care of us and gives ourselves the energy we need to be concerned for others? Because if we're at a loss for something, it's very hard to give it away. But when we can feel an aliveness and an abundance of energy, then it's much easier to offer it to others. So how do we keep our vow? The second vow we take in the morning is delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. If we don't notice our delusion, how will we know what to cut through? Are we willing to pay attention to our lives and be honest enough with ourselves that we can discover our own delusions? There's a saying in Zen that we can't see our own eyes. And in many ways, in a similar fashion, it's very difficult for us to see our own delusions. So we rely on our life to reflect back to us where our delusions appear and what they are. Maybe it's someone close to you who says, you talk a big game of keeping things neat and tidy, but your room is a mess. Where in our lives are we open to the feedback to really get to see our own delusions? But if we don't see them, we can't do anything about them. And if we're really seriously going to take this vow to cut through delusion, then we have to notice it. So our practice is an awareness practice. Our practice is a practice that observes and watches and looks for things. Or maybe better stated, that notices things as they appear. If you don't bring your energy and attention to this very moment, you'll never catch it. And when somebody points it out to you, you'll ignore it and avoid it. Our third vow is the teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. Honestly, I don't like the wording of that vow very much. So I'm going to change it to the wording that I like better, that's present in some of the Japanese Soto Zen schools. There they say, Dharma gates are infinite. We vow to enter them all. To me, that's an alive vow. I vow to enter this very moment. I would say that's probably the most important vow. That may be just a personal opinion, but to vow to be present in our lives, not to just distance ourselves and fall farther and farther away, but to come right into this moment. Think about it. How many defenses do you have to keep yourself away from the intensity of the moment? Are you willing to be vulnerable, open, present, and alive, to really be here and really participate in this moment? If you're not willing to do that, how will you possibly save all sentient beings? And how would you possibly cut through the delusions that permeate our lives? If we don't do it, we will never get it. If you don't try, you end up just lost in the dream. So how in this moment, this Dharma gate, as it appears right now, how do you enter and be open and present enough to participate and make a difference in the moment? There's a saying in Zen that when you present yourself, you reveal your guts. You show it all. You take the risk to reveal yourself in this very moment. And then the fourth great vow that we take is the Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it. That's a tricky vow. But when we say the Buddha way is inconceivable, I would offer that we're really saying the Buddha way is not a conceptual thing. It's alive and happening. It's not an idea. So if you think, oh, I have all these ideas about the Buddha way, and I will attain them by learning these ideas, you're totally missing the point. The Buddha's awakening was about his interconnection with the entirety of the whole universe. The Buddha recognized that as an individual, he was one piece of the entire universe. And one piece of the universe is the entirety of the universe. This very moment, this very Dharma gate is it. There's nothing else other than this. So in this moment, there are many of us who are listening. Listening means take it in. Be careful of your delusions as you're listening, which pick and choose what you like and don't like, what you agree with and what you disagree with. That's normal and natural that you would notice that and that you would actually have those things. The first step is to admit it. The second step is to notice it. And then the third step is to work with it so that you actually can be here. And the work with it is the work of a lifetime. So we have these 4 vows. At the Zen Center, when we do morning practice, we take all 4 of them each time. But one time is actually enough if you actually can remember to do it. And that, in a nutshell, is Zen practice. Doing it. We have many different formal practices that we use to bolster the possibility of our own experience and to actually be able to be present. So, as Marshall said, we're entering into a 2-week retreat period. And actually, since the beginning of January, we've been trying to intensify. And by intensifying practice, we really mean bringing it right to this moment, right to the forefront. Again, a vow is a commitment that's held so strongly that, over the course of history, in many times, human beings have given their lives to their vow. We make a commitment to do something that puts us at risk. The commitment to practice Zen puts us a bit at risk because the structure of our ideas and beliefs that we form to protect us are exactly the delusions and the holdings that we're from the inside chipping away at. When we're doing our sitting practice, each breath coming in is like raising our little mallet. And with each breath going out, we're knocking at the framework that we're trapped behind. I think it's in our temple rules. It's speaking about bows. Each bow is like a little trowel that we take to our mountain of karma. With each bow, we just poke away at it. And if you hit the right point, the mound splits open. But it takes a while to find that, and we create the crevice by our practice. Practice is something we need to do, not something we need to think about. Now, sometimes reading and thinking about our practice is helpful to keep our vow and to keep us moving forward. But if we don't do it and actually do it in the moment, it'll never really flower into fruition. So I suppose for this middle part of the talk, what I'm trying to really accentuate is the role of effort in our practice. It takes effort to keep our vow. It takes effort to sit still over a course of a week or a 2-week retreat. Marshall talked about the folks in Providence. Right now, there probably aren't that many people who are doing all 90 days, but there's always some. In Hong Kong and in Korea and in Poland and in the Czech Republic, just in the Quantum School of Zen, there are tens of people who are sitting 90 days with this great question, what am I? What is this? And bringing our energy and our intention to that moment. So ever since the pandemic began, we've been forced into this first completely online situation, and now we're in this hybrid situation. If I could see what's going on in the meditation hall in Berkeley, it looks like, if I count right, it's about 7 people who are sitting in the meditation hall right now. And there's another, 14 of us sitting here online. And when we do our 8-day retreat, what we'll probably find is, maybe half the people are sitting in the meditation hall. And at any one time, The other half might be online. And for those of you who've been coming to the Dharma room to sit retreats for the last couple of years since we've gone hybrid, you probably have recognized that though you may be putting yourself a little bit more at risk for COVID by being in this room with other people, the other people and the actual being in the Dharma room help intensify the practice and help us keep our vow to follow the schedule and to do the retreat. I've been trying to, well, let's put it this way. What I remember from doing retreats online is the difficulty that one has in keeping the intensity and keeping the continuous nature of retreat. When we say we're on retreat, it's like putting a frame around our life. And everything that we do during that time is part of the retreat. When we sit retreats at home, it's usually easier, let's say it this way, to be focused and attentive and present during the meditation sitting. But then we move to walking meditation. And my sense of it is it becomes much, much more difficult. When we do walking meditation in the Dharma room, we line up in a line and we all walk together following whatever pattern the leader of the walking meditation is setting. We follow the leader's pattern and we follow the leader's pace. One of the big parts of retreat practice is giving up control. So when you're in the Dharma room, you just follow the situation. When you're at home, you have much more control. You get up from the sitting and then you turn off your camera. And when you do that, I just turned off my camera. Nobody knows what I'm doing now. I can tell you a whole story, but you don't know if my hand is on my head or not. You don't know what's going on. So when you're sitting the retreat at home, you have a kind of privacy that you don't have when you're sitting in a large group. So if you really want to fully participate in the practice of a retreat, in many ways, you have to take the same vow that those of the folks who are in the Dharma room are taking. It's a little less explicit, although maybe it would be a good idea for us to take these vows at the beginning of retreat. But if you've been listening to all these Dharma talks over the last 5 or 6 weeks, you'll notice that when people talk about meditation retreat, the main thing that keeps everyone on track is following the schedule. Like it or not, when that 5-minute Mok talk is hit, you come into the Dharma room. And when it's time to chant, you chant. You're accountable to the people around you. Many of us struggle with parts of the practice. Most of us in the West, most of us Westerners, we're attracted to Zen because of sitting practice. It's not too hard for us to give over to sitting practice. It's a much more difficult thing to give ourselves over to chanting. I don't really know how long it took, but I like to, at least I've said to folks, it took me close to 8 years till I finally embraced chanting practice. I thought, chanting practice, that's not my style. That's for other people. But over the years, I mean, it's nice for me that I found a way to enter in and enjoy the chanting practice. But just doing it is the practice. And honestly, if we go to bowing practice, I still don't like bowing practice. In fact, if I had my way, if I were setting the entire schedule, I probably wouldn't put bowing practice on the schedule. I don't like it. And right now I go to morning practice during the week once a week on Tuesdays. And every Tuesday I go to do this bowing practice and I don't like it. But probably about 10 years ago, I had some problem with my knee. My knee cartilage in my right knee started to fray. And the only time it caused a problem was when I did bows. When I would bow and put my legs behind me and bow all the way down, that little piece of cartilage would get stuck in the joint and my knee would lock up. So one solution was I don't have to bow anymore. Great joy. Now I'm free. I don't have to do what I don't want to do. That's not my way. That's not my vow. I actually had to go to an orthopedic surgeon and convince him to give me surgery on my knee so I could ultimately bow again and do the practice that I don't like. And I actually think for all of us, there's great benefit to have aspects of our practice that we don't like. If we just do what we like and don't do what we don't like, then we're honestly not keeping our vows and we're not going to get very far because our likes and dislikes are a big part of that prison that we surround ourselves with to keep ourselves safe and to actually deaden our lives. So vow means do it. So for those of you who are going to be doing a large part of this 8-day retreat from home, before the retreat starts, take some time to find your vow. What will you do? How will you handle walking meditation? How will you handle break time? Now, even at the Zen Center, people leave the line from walking meditation and they go to the bathroom. And you might close the door in the bathroom and you might think, I'm alone. I'm free. I'm not on retreat anymore. But you're not right. That frame of retreat follows you into the bathroom. When you're in the bathroom, you're doing bathroom practice. Pay attention. Be present. If you're in the bathroom, that's the Dharma gate of being in the bathroom. With what kind of mind do you go to the bathroom? What mind do you bring with you? When you finish with the bathroom and then you're not really wanting to walk, so you go into the kitchen, or if you're in the Dharma, if you're in the Zen Center, you go into the entryway. I'll just make myself a cup of tea. I'll go out on the outside deck and I'll drink my tea. Again, you can do that to break from the retreat, or you could take the frame of the retreat with you. Then the moment that you're standing on the outside porch, looking out at the street, drinking your tea, then you're doing outside, standing on the porch, drinking your tea, looking at the street meditation. And if you keep that mind, you'll have a fruitful retreat. So I think I'm going to close doing 2/3 of my talk. I was going to conclude with bringing this back to the great Bodhisattva way, that really the vows we take are Bodhisattva vows. And the world that we live in is the playing field of living out our Bodhisattva vow. Bring yourself completely to the moment and do it. And then you're practicing Zen. So I'll close, rather than embellishing on that, I'll just close with Zen Master Sung San's tagline. Try, try, try for 10,000 years nonstop. That's the vow. Try, Jade. Soon get enlightenment. No, I'm sorry. Only go straight, don't know. That's the beginning point. Let go of what you know. Let go of your delusion. Go straight, don't know. Try for 10,000 years nonstop. Soon get enlightenment and help save all beings from suffering. If we can live out that line, if we make that our vow, our practice will flower and the world will be a better place because of it.